Hi, I'm Ashley Atwood with Sunshine Hill Properties, and I've helped over 70 hopeful homeowners build their bridge from renting to home ownership. Now I'm here to give you the tools you need to achieve your dream of becoming a homeowner. This is the How to Be a Homeowner podcast. All right, hello.
Hi.
Welcome everybody to How to Be a Homeowner. I am Ashley Atwood, and we are hosted by Sunshine Hill Property. And if you could see my dog, Humphrey Bogart, he just brought us a toy. So he wants to participate as well, but we'll have to, do it for some other time. Today, I have Paty Wylie, the branch manager and escrow officer at Magnus Title Agency. We're going to spend our day talking about title. It's a very confusing thing for a lot of people that have never heard about it before. And so I feel like it's very important for us to let you know what it is as new homeowners or first-time home buyers. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Paty, okay? She's been in escrow and title for over 25 years. She's experienced working in 3 different states, California, Nevada, and Arizona. So kind of this whole little
Western
states. We drive through that quite often over here. She's had the privilege of learning to work commercial, resale, new builds, refinance, seller carebacks, and relocation transactions. So that's a lot of different categories. She's also worked under many managers with 40 plus years of experience and have trained and skilled her to look outside of the box and ensure a transaction can close. And when we talk about closing, that means actually passing the key from the old owner to the new owner. So whenever we say closing a transaction, that is the very last thing that happens before you finally own your house. Yes. Well, welcome to the show, Paty. Thank you so much for being here. We work with Magnus Title a lot. They help us in so many ways as real estate agents, not just you as homeowners. And so I'm really happy that you made the trek out here to sit and talk with us about title.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So the first question I like to ask is, why did you choose to be in title?
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't choose. Okay. To be honest, my sister did it, and she worked in title. And back then, you just couldn't just start and say, okay, I'm ready to go. I actually started in customer service. So then from the ground below, worked my way up and understanding what title was. Mm-hmm. Then once I started to do in Nevada, new builds, and it was always first time home buyers actually. And they were so excited. They wanted to keep the pen that they used to sign. I used to buy special paper for them for the deed. Mm-hmm. So I could print the deed on like more of a card stock because they wanted to frame it. We would take pictures, and it was just such an excitement for me. They were so excited. They didn't care if the house wasn't ready. Just please close. And new builds, you can't do that. Walkthrough has to be 100%. So I just saw the joy in people and the dream of having ownership. So I liked it, and then I did it. And I said, I never want to do anything else but new builds. I don't want to do resales. I don't want to do refis. But then I started learning other things, and I love to learn. Mm-hmm. So that's why I know so much other categories, because I just started learning new things here, new things there, and it just brought different types of joy.
That's amazing. I love helping new homeowners, especially first-time home buyers.
Yes, and that's
have
where
a special place in my heart, just because it's the first time.
I was fortunate that that's where I started my career, and because I liked them so much, and their reaction, and they were so appreciative, and they thought I don't know, they must have thought that I'm the one who gave them the money or something, because they were so thankful to me that I said, I really love this job. I can't, and then it just kind of, I learned other things to it, but it was nice.
So what's your favorite part, other than it being, the joy in the homeowner space? What's your favorite part of doing title?
Actually, 2 things. One, telling the client they closed. Okay. So a lot of them will come to me and say, is this really happening? Am I really going to close? Am I really getting my keys? And I just don't want them to say, something to happen. I love to just say, yes, you've closed. Well, usually I call the agents. I never call the client back. So I call the agents, let them know they closed so that you guys can spread the good joy to them.
It is a fun part.
Yes. So that's exactly, I love that part of it. And I also love when we think we can't close a transaction and we're able to close it.
Overcoming that.
Yes. Obstacle.
Yeah, the obstacle. That's always really fun. I try to teach my son that. My oldest is 14, and he's going through. He doesn't like it when things are hard.
Yes.
And I'm like, just push through. And then when he does succeed, I'm like, well, how does that feel? He's like, it feels so good.
Yes.
It's like better than it would have. It's easy.
Yes. And a lot of times people don't realize that we have some obstacles. We don't share it. But in the end, we're like, oh my, we can't believe we made through and it closed. Right. If people only knew. But internally, that's how we feel in the escrow world.
Right. Well, that's why you hired a real estate agent.
Yes, because our biggest problems are people who do the hand deal.
Yeah. You don't realize how much goes on behind the scenes to get a house from one ownership to another.
Yes.
Unless you're doing it yourself. And we highly don't recommend that.
No.
We would love to help you in that situation.
Yes, because those clients who have done that have come to us with problems.
Well, I didn't even realize that there were so many different categories of title to work in. I mean, obviously commercial and residential, I knew would be very different just because of the law's rules. But resale, new builds, refinance, seller carrybacks, like all of this, I didn't realize that there were title officers that specialized in.
And a lot of people don't like seller carrybacks. I didn't do California or Nevada. I learned that through the escrow, my manager here in Arizona. And she was actually very well known. She was on some Facebook, like everybody would recommend her because she was a certified teacher and she did it for over 30 years. So I learned everything from her on that.
And just so y'all know, seller carrybacks is when the owner of the home is going to help you finance a part or in full of the purchase of the home.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you have to know how to prepare the documents, what type of transactions are okay with it. Because if it's a wrap, sometimes the underlying loan still stays in place.
Yeah.
And we have to do full disclosure. Some people cut corners. They don't realize all that. And so I did learn that part of it.
It's just a creative way of being able to get financing.
That's what they call it, creative financing.
Yeah, creative financing. And your title and escrow officers can help you with that as well. So there's just so much to know that it's almost impossible to do it on your own. So having a professional help you out is always key. So that is our introduction to title. We're going to take a really quick break and we'll be back and we'll really dive in. So it's really going to be some good information. So stick around. For this break, I'm going to mention one of our incredible sponsors, HOA.com. Did y'all know that HOA actually stands for Homeowner Alliance? They are America's #1 referral network for professionals that service homeowners. That means their entire existence is to pair quality service professionals that service your house with you as the homeowner. Go to HOA.com/Ashley to find a service professional in your area. They serve the entire country from Austin to Denver to Phoenix to Tampa. You'll be able to find somebody in your area. Also, if you are a service professional and you want to partner with HOA.com, go to the same link, HOA.com/Ashley, and sign up today. All right. Well, welcome back. Thanks for sticking through a commercial. We know that they're not the most favorite part of everybody's listening experience, but they're necessary. They help us pay the bills, help us bring the show to you. So appreciate that. Back to Miss Paty. All right. So we've done a little introduction on title. Why don't we give the listeners and the viewers a brief description of what it is?
So title insurance helps for a buyer. It helps protect their ownership of the home.
So title is short for title insurance.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's the insurance part. Depending on where you're at in the state, in Arizona, seller pays for the insurance that protects the buyer. And that really protects them in case there's any outstanding liens, missed taxes. And I'm going to admit, escrow may make an error and forget to pay, say, a loan on the property. Or for any forgeries, false deeds, any of those things, somebody can come back and put a claim on the home. And now the buyer's like, oh my gosh, do I owe this? You come back and see the title company and we take care of everything, whether it was our mistake or we do the research to make sure that the seller didn't have any outstanding loans and debts on the property. Because that could come back as saying, oh, they were supposed to sell this property. It was a forgery, a forged deed. But things of that nature can happen.
So when we're talking about title, it's basically like you guys are going to check the chain of ownership. Okay. And so as you know, used to work in new builds, but some other homes have had 2 or 3 owners along the way. Right. So you check and make sure that everything was done.
Everything is properly. And let me just say, even with new builds, it's very much that we have to protect even those buyers.
Okay.
Because we want to make sure that the new builds, because I actually have one builder that I work with now, that he's paid all his loans, all his debts, all the contractors, the plumbers, the suppliers, anyone he has paid or to help make someone's home, build it, we have to make sure that they all got taken care of, because they can come back and slap a lien on the property.
That loan or that payment is backed by the house, not by the person.
Correct.
And so if the home changes ownership, say I buy it, and those old contractors come back and say, you owe us money, I own that house now, and I'm responsible for it unless we've gotten good title insurance.
Exactly. Because they'll say, we helped build this house, and there's what they call mechanics lien on the property.
Right. So that title insurance is it's insurance. It's like
insurance.
Health insurance or car insurance. If something happens, the insurance takes care of it. That's what you guys are preparing and making sure everything is good, and then making sure you as a buyer are protected in case there's a mistake.
Absolutely. And it's a one-time. One-time. They only need it one time, and it's until they sell the house. It's a life. If they own the house for 30 years, it's, theirs for 30 years. They won't get they do get policy in the mail, but if you lose it, you just call us and we email it, but you really never really need to have it in hand for it to be enforced. You just call your title company. Exactly.
Okay. So that is, if you're all of a sudden going, holy crap.
And the human error comes.
Because there's still a lot more, but that is basically what the title transaction is as a whole, is just making sure that there's nothing that can come back and bite you in the butt after you own it. And then if there happens to be an oversight, you've got that insurance to pay for.
Correct.
So that's the basic. And that answers my next question. What is title insurance and why is that important? Because that is so important to have. I don't want somebody coming back and saying, I'm going to take your home away from you.
Exactly.
You did nothing wrong.
Absolutely. Or, you owe us all this money.
Yeah.
And that is huge.
Yeah. Okay. So, this might be a weird transition into a question, but I know there's different ways that you can quote unquote hold title.
Correct.
What is that? What does it mean? What's the difference? Let's talk about that.
Okay. So my best suggestion first, and I will talk about it, but because there's so many different ways. And the best way is if there's a loan involved, they have to talk to their lender first. Okay. As a title company, we have to do what the lender has on what they call on their deed of trust.
Because the lender's the one that
is lending them the money.
Yeah, they're holding the risk, and so they use that house as collateral.
Correct.
So they don't want anything happening to their assets.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the most common one is, I want to hold it in a trust.
Okay.
They'll tell me, okay, thank you for letting me know. But the lender may not lend them the money under a trust. Because you can't sue a trust necessarily to get that money back. It's a small percentage of lenders that do it, and they do it as an individual and then as a trust, where they're signing 2 times.
Okay.
So that's why it's important, if there's a lender involved, that they talk to the lender on how, they need to hold title. But in general, if a husband and wife are going up to title, we do ask that they give us a call. We send them a sheet, but the common way here is community property with rights of survivorship. And that's if someone was to pass, it eliminates probate, and it goes right into the other person, the surviving spouses.
Automatically.
What will happen is, if they're going to sell the home or refinance it, the death certificate gets recorded to show that the spouse has passed. But doesn't need to happen before they need to, do anything.
Yeah, there's no going to the court to prove that, say if my husband passed away, that I own the home now 100%. That is already done through the title.
Right. Now,
That's community property.
Exactly,
Right?
community property. But I always also tell clients they should definitely call their escrow officer, because I've had situations where it's second marriages. And we think, this is why we don't assume an escrow, husband and wife, they want to go as community property. But sometimes I've had a couple that go tenants in common, meaning 50% to the wife, 50% to the husband. Because if the husband was to pass away, he wants it to go to his surviving children.
That 50%.
Yeah, only the 50%. So they could definitely talk to us about that too.
So that was called what?
Tenants in common.
Tenants in common. And so that eliminates the automatic part. Now, the husband could easily say, I want my 50% to go to my wife.
Absolutely.
After he passes. But it gives you the choice versus the what's the other one?
Tenants in common.
Tenants in common, and the other one that we just talked about.
The trust.
No,
the community property.
Community property.
Right.
Thank you. Community property, there's no choice. That's what happens.
Yeah.
So you're able to leave your 50% with whomever you choose, whether it be your surviving spouse or your surviving children.
Right. Because I've had that happen where people say, well, this is our second marriages and we want to leave our 50% to our surviving children. So that's why, it's good to know.
Are those the two most popular ones?
Tenants in common are not very popular.
Really?
No.
Okay.
It's less than 1%. The popular one is community property with the rest of survivorship. And then if you're two single people, you're just not married quite yet, joint tenants with the rest of survivorship.
Okay.
So that one just means that you're not married. But in this case, say it's boyfriend and girlfriend, because that's usually what the common thing is. Boyfriend would leave if he passes to the girlfriend. Sometimes you have mom and parents involved. So mom passes, the daughter will get it, because she's on the title too.
Is that an automatic transfer?
No, they have to, whatever they choose, they definitely have to tell the title company. If anything else, they must sign something that says community property with rights to survivorship, and it gets recorded. If they just go on title as husband and wife and do not sign the community property, it will go to probate. It's not assumed here.
It's not, nothing is assumed.
Nothing. You have to sign the community property. That gets notarized and recorded. So if you're closing on a transaction in Arizona and you do not sign that, you're going on title as just husband and wife or two single people, you are not protected and you will have to go to probate. And we do have an episode on trust, wills, and probate that will go into detail on that. But probate, just, to move this episode along, is when it goes to the courts and they have to prove the will. They have to prove on who goes, who has rights to that house now that there's been a passing. And it's a long, arduous, rather expensive process, and you want to avoid it as much as possible. Yes.
You want to avoid it.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's 3 ways. I know there's a gajillion ways.
Yes.
But we don't have to
So those are the most common ways is people want to avoid probate. So that's really the most common way. Of course, you can go as single. Unfortunately, when you're single, you just go as a single man. Or a single woman. That's it. Now, yes, person, yes. Yes, person. Well, they do now. Yeah, they definitely. But the key there, I tell, because my daughter actually is single, a married woman. So just yesterday, I made her come down to take a little visit to me, and I made her sign a beneficiary's deed, which means it gets recorded. She's not transferring title. But that just means that if she passes, she's leaving her home to her brother. Of course, I let her decide who that was. But that protects a single person
from probate.
Yes.
Yeah, so that is just another way for us to line up what happens if. I mean, it's never fun to think about what happens when we leave this world. But when you're thinking about the most valuable asset that you are likely going to buy in your lifetime is your home, you want to be protected, and you don't want the government to be able to take it away, or some stranger make a claim or anything along those lines. And title's going to help you do that by lining it out, making sure you own it properly so that the people that you want to leave your home to are protected in that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if they have that conversation, I mean, I've had a lot of people call me and they'll say, well, this is what I have planned. This is what I want to line up, or this is what I want to do. It really helps us to guide them and help them determine what's their best fit.
Yeah. So being open and honest about that kind of stuff with your title officer. I know that my real estate agent, when I bought my first house, encouraged me to reach out to my title officer and introduce myself, you know, just to open that line of communication, because otherwise it can get so chaotic that you don't realize that conversation is always nice to have.
Another good point too about making sure you reach to title is a lot of times husband and wife doesn't qualify for loan, and not just picking a person, the two. So she has to sign a disclaimer deed, relinquishing all her interest to the property just to close the transaction. But title can go back if they have that conversation with title and say, can you please put them back on?
Yeah.
And it should happen quite quickly, because many title companies, once the transaction closes, and if you're calling a month later, they can't do that. You know, they don't want us preparing deeds afterwards. Should be done all within while you still have your transaction in hand, because they could do it all simultaneously.
Well, that's nice to know too, because there is so many ways.
Yeah.
As we said earlier in the first segment, so many things that can go wrong. And as if we're open and saying, hey, this is the end goal.
Yes.
Then Paty and her team knows exactly, okay, it's not going to be a straight line anymore. But if we do this and we go to the left and jump when we do a loop, and we can still end up here, it's just going to look more interesting.
And what the buyer wants in the end.
Yes, exactly.
They'll be happy. And many times they'll come back and see me a month later and say, I really wanted my wife on title, but I can't help them after a month later. And I'm like, why did she tell me?
Yeah.
Well, I told my lender. Well, sometimes they, miscommunication, because people assume, I thought they told title.
Yeah. And here in Arizona, title and escrow are the same.
Yeah.
At the same office.
Yes.
Some places have two different offices. Sometimes it's just called escrow. So it depends on where you live, where you're listening. So just make sure you talk to your real estate agent about, hey, who's my title? Who's my escrow? And then your lender. So those are your main people that you want to stay in contact with,
right? And
make sure you are talking to throughout the process. You don't have to know every detail, but communicating with them what your end goal is, and let them help you is key. So those are your main, I would say 4, because title and escrow
we're one and the same.
One and the same.
They call us.
Sometimes they're separate.
We can definitely help them.
Sometimes they're separate.
That's true.
But yeah, there's lots of ways to hold title, not just those 4. So if those don't work, if you're talking with your title company and they're not talking about one of those, that's just because there's so many that we just don't have time to talk about.
And those are just the common ways
on the show. So awesome. Okay. So now that we know kind of how this is our goal, how we're going to hold title. So we're out shopping for houses. We know that there are possibilities of issues on the title now, right? Maybe we're scared of past liens or whatever. Is there anything that we can do to predict or understand that there might be an issue?
Well, sometimes you can't predict, unfortunately, because we don't know what a seller may have. The main one is if somebody has passed away. Okay. Remember, we were talking about probate, going back to that conversation. If someone has passed away and someone else is selling it on their behalf, that is where real estate agents will get involved and say, okay, do you have all the necessary paperwork to sell the home?
Yeah.
Many times people don't realize that it may go into a probate issue. And if it does, that's time. And of course, you'll talk about that in that episode of how long something like that can take. So if someone's looking to do a quick move, that may not work for them. Also, did they get all the paperwork intact with the probate issues? That would be the only red flags up front that I would say.
And we know as real estate agents, usually, because the listing agent will put it in the listing, this house is in probate. So we will usually know that this home is going to be a little more paperwork.
Exactly.
So yeah.
That would be the only thing, but until you get into the contract and you sign something. Once you sign, then you want to obviously look at your SPUDs disclosures to see if there's a FERPA issue.
SPUDs. So yeah, let's lift. Sorry. I'm trying to get it means. I'm sorry. I know what it means, but not everybody. So SPUDs is the seller disclosure paperwork, and it's several pages. And the seller literally goes and checks on, I've done work on the roof. I've done this. I had this loan. I had this loan. It's a lot. But they have to literally disclose every single thing. So that's what we call it as SPUDs. That's the short nickname for it. Yeah. Okay.
So I want to see if there's a FERPA issue.
FERPA is when it's, correct me if I'm wrong, it is owned by somebody that's non-resident of America, and there's paperwork involved in transferring the sale of that home. They have to pay certain taxes to America since they're not citizens.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That is correct. And the thing that you want to know is that sometimes those sellers are not, they don't think that they have to prepare. And a good agent will prepare their seller and say, look, you're going to have to hold this much money, because what we do in escrows, we send it straight to the IRS. We withhold it from the proceeds and send it to the IRS, which a lot of sellers are like, what are you doing? So that would be the only other, just so that your seller's prepared. I would say that there's no red flags because they're caught off guard that we have to hold that money.
And if they don't pay those taxes, guess who's liable
for
those taxes? The new homeowner.
That is correct.
So it's important that you know that too.
Exactly.
And we do. That's another thing that we see in our listings a lot of times. I'll see, hey, this is a FERPA transaction.
Those are one of the best agents who disclose that.
Yeah, we just need to know, like, it's still going to be fine, but we're going to make sure they take care of their business so that you're not done.
Yeah, absolutely.
So those are some probate, FERPA. Those are the main things that you can see before, like while you're shopping. Then we go into, once we get under contract, we open escrow.
Yes.
That's always so exciting too. You get your offer accepted and you open escrow. And that's literally when title starts digging, right?
Yes, so we go into everything. If there's an issue, we of course, everybody sees it, on the title report. But to say that how long something will take to clear up depends on how cooperative the seller is. Because we're clearing up the seller's liens practically. There could be something with the buyer and it could be quick, but it really depends on how cooperative they are. Sometimes it takes a week to get a hold of someone. So we just lost a whole week of trying to clear something. The hardest one, I would say, is if they owe back taxes to the IRS. It's impossible to get a hold of the IRS right now, So that you will know right away. Right away, you'll know, oh boy, IRS. I encourage people, sellers, you are lucky if you could just make an appointment, go to the IRS office and get a copy of what you owe, and a lot of people don't think that those can be possible liens. So that they're like, what? That affects the sale of my home. So I think that the education of people not knowing what can affect the sale of a home is liens. Whether it be court judgment liens, credit card liens, anyone who's taking you to court, those can be liens. Yeah.
It's just, you have to be responsible.
Yeah.
Because when you it's your house, like, it's not just free and clear, right? Like, you have to take care of your business so that the people will, how do I say this? That's your most important asset.
Yes.
If you own a home, somebody's going to say, hey, I deserve my money and I'm going to put a lien on your house. You can't do anything until it's paid off.
Which leads me, and I think we talked about it a little bit later, to another topic, is that sometimes I've had a couple parents who say, well, I want to protect, if I pass away, I want to add my daughter to the lien. It was a real estate agent. She wanted to add her son. Not a problem. We added the son. The son got into whether divorce, whatever personal financial issues. She's now trying to sell the property because this happened during the foreclosure time. She's trying to get out of her property, and she found out that her son owed back judgments. So whoever you put on title, be careful. Know their business too, because it's not just yours. Anyone who's on title is subject to those liens being attached.
Yeah. So anyone who holds title owns the property. Owns
Exactly. A percentage of the property.
Like they have
debtors don't care that they're a silent owner or no owner,
silent
5%, or somebody who didn't put in any money. They want their money.
Yeah. So that's a serious issue. So those are things that that the title will find for you as a buyer when you're going through. She's going to find those things that the seller, like the son, the son that owed money, that stuff came up in the title search while you're looking. So that's kind of stuff that they're protecting you from.
Correct.
Because we don't want those people
to come back to the
new buyer. So that doesn't happen. That deep dive doesn't happen until you've opened escrow and you're going through the process of changing hands.
Correct.
Okay. So you'll get a preliminary title report, which is preliminary, right? It's still only preliminary, but it's going to give you a breakdown of everything that's there. And you're hoping it's clear.
It's a clear title. There's no issues. Actually, I have to say that lately they have been pretty clear. There was a time where, when the foreclosure process
and you said it was like 2008.
Yes,
2009.
exactly.
Okay.
And you would see a lot because people got a little behind with everything going on. So there was liens and judgments, but ironically, you don't see that as often.
Well, that's fantastic.
Knock on wood. Right? Before I get back and I open up my new escrow and have all these problems, but
that's what you have. And
exactly,
problems are also called clouds on title. Since you might hear that word, there's a cloud on the title. That doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to buy the house. It just means that title's got a little extra work to figure out. And as long as the seller cleans it up, like seller pays off his or her loans or whatever it is that's clouding the title, you're still going to be able to own that home. It's just, there's like
a little bit of
it's a little bit of a dance. You got to do that. And you already said that it depends on what that cloud is.
Yes.
To how long it's going to take.
So most of the time we can clear things up between 3 to 4 days because we're just making direct contact to either a law or it's the IRS, the one. And sometimes we may see, it won't say it specifically, but it'll say possible. That's because there are people who have the first name, first and last name. And we need to make sure that they are not one and the same. So.
Okay. All right. That's awesome. Yeah, man, I feel like we've gone through so much. We've already talked about how to prevent any issues. The same issues that can come and bite you as a buyer can bite the next person. And you want to be able to you've worked so hard and you've built equity in your home.
Yes.
When it comes time to sell it, you want to be able to take in that reward, right? That equity is your reward for being a homeowner. You don't want all of that to be messed up because you were irresponsible with other things. And hey, we all take out loans. We all need a hand here or there, but just remember, you've got a big asset now and people will, they will put a lien and they say, hey, I'm going to prevent you from having any enjoyment of the future of this house until I'm paid off. And so just keep your business straight when it comes to that.
May I add just one thing?
Please.
One thing that just came up because it comes out right now in my escrow right now is if you know that they're going to put a lien on your property and once you paid off that lien, make sure you get a release. That has to get recorded. So I just said this came up.
You get the release from the seller?
From not so much the seller, whoever you got the loan from. If you're getting a loan against your property.
Okay, so you're talking about I own the house, I'm getting a loan. Okay.
And I'll tell you who I'm referring to now. Or you use your home as collateral. In my case that just happened, bail bonds.
Ooh, okay.
They used the home as collateral. They recorded a lien. The seller had no idea that she did because they signed it, but she didn't know what she was that there was going to be a lien.
She signed it.
She signed it. They might have told her there was a collateral against the home because she wasn't surprised. What she was surprised at, so she did know that they were going to do it against the property because she signed it and not recorded. that they never did the release. So when
Paid
you
it
pay it off, please follow through, because guess what? The bail bonds is now out of business. No way to get a release. I had to refer her to an attorney, a real estate attorney, who will try to track the people down. They have ways to do that, or they're going to have to go to court and do a quiet title. So anytime, I've had a couple of situations right now that I'm handling for parents. They're saying, hey, I want my daughter to pay me back this money. They put a $40,000 lien for the down payment. I have no problem recording it. But if I give any advice is, once you pay off mom, make sure mom signs off on the release and record it.
So mom
Because
says,
we have no way of knowing that it was paid.
you paid this off. Thank you for paying it off. There is no more claim to this title.
Right.
There's no more claims.
They have to sign a piece of, it's called a release of reconveyance. They sign it and they can call title company for assistance. A lot of places have websites where you can, that will tell you generically where you can find it. Your mom will sign it, take it to the recorder's office and get it recorded. Because that's the only way we know that mom signed it.
Yeah. And just let me say this too, recording.
No, yes.
We've mentioned that word a couple of times. Recording is county clerk's office and it's still in a book, right? Or did they finally make it digital?
It's digital now. and there's a couple of offices, and I was actually on my way here talking to someone because she needs to go down and record. Depending on where you're at, to be quite honest with you, there was a time we had kiosks. They had set up kiosks in the libraries here. So you could have went to the library, put it in a little machine and it recorded. They did away with that during COVID because of the closure. Now, but the county offices, I actually went down last month in person to do a favor for a client, and there's nobody in there in downtown. So depending on where you're at in the state, they may have kiosks, or you just go down in person and get it recorded.
It's literally the document that is holding that chain of title. So anytime there's a lien that goes to the county and it says, I am owed $40,000 against this property. And then it stays there until it is otherwise released.
Exactly.
And says, this owner has paid $40,000 for this job. I no longer own that.
Yes.
Lien. And it's literally in order. It used to be in a book. They used to handwrite it in there. Now, thank God they don't do that. But it's recorded when you close. When you close on the property, it's recorded at the county's office, and then you get your key. So anytime you hear recording, it's literally the record of ownership that is kept at the county's office.
Yes.
So that's so fun. There's so much more to talk about. I know that you guys do escrow too. We might have to do a whole other episode on what escrow is, because there's different kinds of paperwork that go through all of that while you're working simultaneously with title. So we might have to do a whole nother episode for that, because we're already
I know this is a whole nother topic. I know this could go on forever.
It could go on forever. So I might have you back and we'll talk about escrow. What is the number one most frequently asked question you get?
What is title?
Hence the episode.
Yes. But they don't understand what it is and what we do.
Yeah, hence the episodes.
Always.
So I'm glad that a question we're able to answer. Okay, what is the number one question you wish people would ask you, but they don't?
Which way should I hold title? Or what is the best way I should hold title? Or explain, or asking me to explain title. Because many times with husband and wives, when they have to do a disclaimer deed, they come back a month later, and I do not like to tell people I can't help them anymore. I'd rather help them and then be 100% right.
So now you know what question to ask them first.
Yeah.
Which way should I hold title? Okay, so we did touch on this a little bit. But what would be the difference between us here in Phoenix versus people that are watching maybe in Florida or North Carolina or somewhere?
Well, in the East Coast, they do attorneys. So when you are doing the closing, when you're saying you're closing, they actually exchange keys right then and there. They sign their papers and they get their keys right away. So they will not be waiting for it to officially record.
Okay.
So the big difference is that when people come here to Arizona from the East Coast, they think that that's how it works here. And we have to explain to them, no, you have to wait for it to officially record in our state.
Okay.
So that's the biggest thing.
There's a lot of differences between states, and you know, and that's obviously why we're the United States of America. Each state has their own set of rules. So we'll get you in touch with the right people to make sure that you're going the right direction. Okay. Okay, so somebody is trying to find the title company that they want to use. What would be some good questions for them to ask you as they're trying to find the perfect title company?
Well, I know a lot of times people say money, find out about their fees. We're all kind of really competitive. I mean, there's not going to be a big difference in fees because we all want to be in the same business. So we're not very far off. We all try to be very competitive. I believe I think it was 2 weeks ago, I heard that within all the title companies here, we're only talking about less than $100 difference depending on your situation, which is very, very, very small. But the biggest thing is, how can you get a hold of your escrow officer? How easy? Because you want to make sure the service is there. If you are in a situation and you can't get a hold of her and you need to know, do we have your documents? Am I signing? How much money do I have to come in with? How easy and what's the best way to get a hold of your escrow officer? Is it email, cell phone, text? Communicate that to your escrow officer and say, do you have an assistant? Who else can I talk to in your absence? I'm not here, but my assistant is there right now in my office covering while I'm here. So that's why it's so key to find out how easy is it to get a hold of you, and you know, are you available for questions?
For questions, because there's going to be questions.
There's going to be questions, and you want to make sure you get a hold of them.
Yeah, that's a good,
because you may have went somewhere for $100 cheaper, but then you can never get a hold of the person.
Yeah, and then you end up with the wrong title or something.
Or delayed in closing because you couldn't get a hold of them. They didn't know you were out of state. We try to get all those questions answered at the beginning so that we know, okay, let's plan accordingly to get you somebody to sign you in your state.
Right. That's great advice. Thank you for that. Now some fun questions.
Okay.
What's some fun industry jargon that we should know?
Oh my goodness. Jargon.
The fun ones.
Oh, well, I would say record it. You got your keys. That is a homeowner.
Yeah.
But it's
Closing
not
and recording.
It's not the biggest jargon, but that's the most joy of fun, is saying that you are now a homeowner. I have to go back to that always, because that's what brings the most joy into people. But we don't really have like a lot of crazy jargon necessarily. We're kind of a boring.
But how many times did we have to describe, like, this is what this means?
Yeah.
Usage jargon.
It is, and people just like, I don't want to know all that. There's nothing
Closing
really fun. Closing.
Yeah, closing and recording.
Yes. Yes. I would say that's the key.
Do you have a crazy story that you can tell us about your time on the job?
I don't think that there's really anything. I mean, I every day is a crazy. I mean, not every day now. I mean, I've had crazy situations all the time. So I think that I've had some doozies. Let's just say I've had to go to people's homes to sign them, and I think that that's been the most interesting part. I used to go to people's homes. I don't do it anymore because I didn't know what I was walking into. So that was probably. The weirdest one is where two people were fighting.
Oh,
and it was very awkward, and they did it in front of me without no problems. And then I had to get them to sign. So I had to wait about 30 minutes for them to get their composures and sign. And that was kind of awkward, because I felt, and I asked them, should I come back? And they said no. So I had to wait. And another one is I think my interesting one, when I go to people's houses, I had to go sign someone, and, you know, they're offering me wine and they're cooking, and I had to wait till they were done cooking. And I thought, okay, this is a little awkward.
they're really just seeing a signature.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, I'll wait till you're done cooking. So that's been kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Some interesting stuff. I think the most interesting ones when I go to people's homes, because I get to see the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah. How people really live. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. Y'all, she's obviously, there's so much more that we could talk about. We even talked during the breaks, like we're just going to need a whole another episode to talk about some stuff. So tell everybody how they can reach you, Miss Paty.
So I'm best number is 623-385-3505. My email address is paty.wylie@magnustitle.com. And I'm at Magnus Title. Now,
If you want her cell phone, you'll have to call the office, open up escrow.
there you go.
She'll give you your cell phone. Is Magnus Title the website that they could go to?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so Magnus is Magnus Title. For those of you that are just listening, everything will be in the show notes for you to be able to get a hold of her. And is there, you should definitely say, I heard you on How to Be a Homeowner.
Yes,
Right?
yes, absolutely.
Because that way they know.
Not only that, it gives you a discount for first homeowner.
Really? You can get a little discount. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, so make sure you get your little discount for opening up title with Magnus Title and Paty Wylie. And if you're not in the area, we'll definitely help you find someone that can help you as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Paty.
Thank you.
Thank you, listeners and watchers and viewers. We will see you next time. Okay. Bye. Bye.
Sunshine Hill Properties is proud to bring you the How to Be a Homeowner podcast. If you have more questions, ask them in the comment section. I will be featuring and answering them in upcoming episodes. If you like the show, leave a review and share it with a friend. Our goal is to help as many people as possible achieve their dreams, and your reviews help reach those people. If you are ready to build your bridge to homeownership, reach out to me at sunshinehillproperties.com to make an appointment for a call. No matter where you are in the country or on your journey, I'm ready to get you headed in the right direction with a free consultation. Interested in finding a trusted service provider in your area or partnering with HOA.com as a service professional? Go to HOA.com/Ashley. Are you an agent? Great! I am growing my team in states across the country. Let's schedule a call to see if we need an agent to cover your area. Visit sunshinehillproperties.com. Want a career in real estate? You're not an agent yet, but you still want a career? That's still wonderful. I'd love to talk to you about training with me or one of my team members. Contact us at, you guessed it, sunshinehillproperties.com. I have to shout out our amazing post-production team. Thank you, Space Dream Productions, for doing every bit of post-production. I truly could not have made this show happen without you. And last but not least, if you don't want to miss a thing, be sure to subscribe to us now on the How to Be a Homeowner podcast.